go live, and then we can do that.
Awesome. I didn't
Yeah.
know if there was a delay on that side or not.
Not really a delay, just a moment for it to do it. And then what I have to do is turn down the volume because I hear the episode. I have to turn off the volume because I hear the episode happening as the episode's happening. So on my desktop, it's very
Nice.
woo. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sunday Spirit Session. I'm Laura Baum, founder of Laura's Botanicals, and this is Charlene Shriver, and she is the founder of the Rainbow Frequency. And this is Sunday Spirit Sessions, where we get together in the morning on Sunday to once a week, have a conversation, talk about intuition, how it can inform and allow us to find ways to use herbs and nature to heal ourselves. And then we also have an AI assistant who did not show up today. We normally have an AI assistant, and he keeps, or she, or they keep an account of our conversation because we are intuitive and we are playing off each other's energies. And it makes a little checklist every week for us to use. So last week's checklist, we were supposed to make a broth using mushrooms, look into and research wintergreen, a common plant that's indigenous to the eastern region of the United States. It's not found in Europe. It's native here to our area in Virginia. And then also talk about and listen to a little bit of your land history. Charlene, what are your opening thoughts today for our latest session?
Um, well, going off of the last statement, land history, my first question I would pose to the individuals watching is really tune in to what plants, what natural items you're really drawn to, and then chew on why it is that you have this love, this resonance with it. For example,
Yes.
I love lavender and I use it in my coffee. I use it. My friend made this lavender neck pillow. Yeah, yes. I mean, it's just to me, it's my number one go to. I
Here,
love
I'm gonna
rock.
get up my neck pillow too, in solidarity.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I have a bit of a headache. So I have it on my neck because it's one of the tension points that my
Yeah.
headache kind of emanates.
Basically, basically, Charlene is just needing a little bit of like tension love right now. So let me just get out my entire like when I take a break from the computer and then, you know, there we go.
Here we go. But the whole
I-
world needs attention break and love. Oh my goodness.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love Charlene.
I love
I
you.
love spirit sessions. This is great. Yes. Okay. Well, there we go. I have a quote to share with you
Oh yes.
and to share with our audience today. And I just was like, the whoa moment. It comes from a very dense nutrition book. It's not a one-time read. It's like a 5-year read. You read it 100 times, and there's still more coming out of it. It's a classic textbook. It's probably very expensive now, unfortunately. But it's integrating, of course, Chinese medicine with nutrition, kind of making it a little bit more approachable, I suppose. I'm going to find the quote now
Yeah, yeah.
that I wrote. Harmony with the seasons, and the author's Pitchford, so Paul Pitchford. Harmony with the seasons is second nature to the balanced person. I love because when we are balanced, this is what we can look forward to. It's harmony. Harmony is a great word. Only through practices that bring us close to the cycles of nature do we begin to hear a voice of our own nature clearly. Gradually, the practices become internalized and more complete trust in our own intuition is possible.
I love it. And I want
Isn't
that
that
book.
great?
Yeah, I want that book. Um,
Yes.
Which is funny because I was tuning in this morning because my spiritual practice is, and it's not every single day. We're not static beings, but like I try to get up, I make my coffee because it is a part of my religious and spiritual practice. Um, I mean, I put lavender, cinnamon, if I have it, cardamom, nutmeg, um, orange peel. I believe that's everything. And then it was based off an Ethiopian coffee recipe, which later, after I'd been doing it, I realized it's a practice to get to enlightenment, which I think is beautiful. But then I'll meditate. So then this morning I was tuning in to one thing. I had a couple things I wanted to talk to you about, but one in particular was the fact that Mars has been in retrograde for a while now and is going direct. Mars is our where we take action. It's our passion, it's what we will fight for. And being in retrograde, retrogrades give us a chance to reflect, revise, rework, any RE word. And now it's going forward. So we will have less lethargy, which is very seasonally appropriate. And Venus is going to go retrograde, which means that we'll be reflecting, rethinking our feelings and beliefs about love, about money, about harmony, and how we can create it. So I think that's so beautiful how it just weaves together our intuitive processes for these meetings.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that we are able to enhance our intuition. It's like both things happening at the same time. It's intuition informs, and by strengthening our connection to nature, our intuition gets more reliable. And I like that too. And that's interesting about Mars. And yeah, it is action taking. It's that fire, and fire is our heart and our mind, and it's the mother of Earth. So, and then by strengthening Earth, we strengthen our fire. So the Earth is the spleen and the pancreas. So it's interesting to think of these things as segregated from one another, but in actuality, they're not. They're totally connected and relying on each other's energy. If one organ in the body is weak, it will steal energy or life force, Jing, Qi, ojas, depending on what framework you're looking at, from a different organ. And it's that creation cycle. So if we are too dominant in fire, we will have a depletion in other elements in our lives. And we can see that those natural patterns recurring. So if I have a particular digestive issue in the summer, I might also have bronchitis in the winter because my lungs have gotten weaker as a result of the digestion weakness. A disharmony is throughout the entire body, not just one isolated place.
Yeah, we as humans really love to compartmentalize things, and it isn't.
Mm-mm.
It's more of a concentric circle or like fractal situation. Um, and when I
Yeah.
channel information, I'm like, I don't exactly know what that means, but there you go.
Well, it's the law of similars is another way, like the more Western way of explaining this too, because it's based on the same kind of ideology, except they used like the law of opposites, law of similars to explain this. So if you have a burn on your skin, it's hot. You don't put oil on it. Why? The oil will make it hotter. It makes the tissues of the skin too hot and irritated. It worsens the burn. It aggravates the heat. But if you put cold on it or neutral temperature water, it will neutralize the heat. So it's the same idea of qualities, and the qualities come from that same origins with an ancient traditional medicine that
And
um,
chaotic.
opposites heal, polar opposites and opposites that exist in nature. There's always opposites in nature, and opposites emotionally can also heal. So if you are in an aggravated state in your liver and your heart is, I mean, and rather your liver has become swollen or it is inflamed, which there are certain indications that tell you that it is. One of the indications is anger, a lot of angerness and melancholia. But if you take on a more patient mindset, patience is the emotional cure to that anger over time, and that can actually heal the inflammation. So it's taking into consideration characteristics of our personalities, our spirit, our emotions, our will, not just our physical condition.
That's interesting. Which patience and perseverance are my spiritual keywords
Love
as
it.
far as like
Yeah.
my spiritual journey, like the mantra that keeps me going. Anyway, um,
Love it. Yeah. And everyone
but
should have a mantra. That's a good idea.
yeah, I try to supply them on my different accounts to help people as they come through because again, I'll channel things that spirit wants me to talk about, and that's why for me it just sometimes it feels like I'm babbling because I'm not conscious of exactly why I am communicating what I am or what it means. Like this morning I was meditating and what is it? A protonic capacitor came through, which again like I'm like what the holy hell does that even have to do with anything?
What is
And
it?
yeah, a proton capacitor, hold on, I'm pulling it up.
It
Basically,
sounds like what's in Back to the Future, or that's the flux capacitor.
yeah, it does. But okay, it's a capacitor is a bucket for electric charge. You can fill it up with charge and it can release that charge. Also, another thing that it says um, energy storage and low grade heat conversion, which again, as a human body, that makes a lot of sense to me. And as an energy worker, which we all can tap into that universal energy to
Or
self heal, it makes a lot of sense that that's I know for myself in a healthy way I spend time in the sun, but a lot like spending time under the stars is also very healing, which with plants you if you are really nerdy in gardening, you know that you should grow by the moon cycle as well as the sun cycle. So it's just to me we're no different. The same laws apply to us. Anyway.
yeah, absolutely. And they can fill in the gaps in our lives, like their flower essences, the plants themselves, because they're conduits. They have the energies that they have stored in their cells from the universe and the astral influence. So yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff. And it helps you start to hone in on the body and how you can literally map out things and know what influences what and what to pay attention to. But speaking of like electricity and vibration, there's a lot of stuff that could be gone into there. Um, and electrical impulses, the current and flow of movement and fluid throughout the body is like really important. And I think they call it the extracellular matrix as well. There's like that in itself is kind of what life is. It's that fluidity and movement and change that occurs in the body.
Which that's what they mean with
Because,
go with the flow.
yeah, and stagnation is a common term. And so what does that mean exactly? How do you know that there are these blockages? Which there are. And I think it's good for us to generally have one, first, an awareness and a vocabulary built up to be able to pay attention to our bodies in time and space and wherever else you are traveling. Because that can, there's astral stuff going on, his past travel, all kinds of things that are happening, especially if you're a dream worker, which I am. Um, and you have to be able to again tap into those elements then too. So one body scan, and then some type of procedure or process that's based on combining all of those elements and getting you back into a frame of mindset where you can then move forward. It's like a shift that has to happen. but it does happen with awareness, better awareness of, oh, okay, I feel these sensations in my body, and this is what this normally means. So it is a mindfulness, somatic experience that
Let's
brings you back into your body almost.
let's touch on because a lot of people that I speak with aren't really aware of the difference. Like dreaming, when you wake up, it's not very tangible. You don't really remember it. Um, it's wispy almost. Whereas when you astrally travel or do work at night, you do remember it. It's very solid in your mind. It's a lot of times I'll be seeing myself, my perspective through someone else, almost like quantum leap. Or I have had a lot of dreams where I'm flying, but in a human body. There are many different ways that this can be done. But, and again, at night, a basic concept of this is that our souls meet with other souls that in waking life we have a hard time communicating or reaching, and we
Mhm.
can do it on that plane. It's also where we meet with our spiritual team and communicate with them,
Mm.
and where we heal ourselves, which is why sleep is so important.
Yes.
I often wake up and I will have to pee. Now, some of this is hormonal, but at the same time, I also have for myself realized like I have to be in that moment conscious of like, thank you. I'm waking up to release what I just filled my bucket with, and I need to
Mm.
regain that equilibrium because you can't be too full and you can't be too empty. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And the water in the body can become a source of stagnation. So your body is naturally reducing the water pressure, so to speak, which has been scientifically proven. That's why a lot of people who have heart issues tend to have to be put on diuretics to actually reduce the water intake and water fluid holding in their body, edema, things like that, swelling.
Which also brings me back to a point from something you said earlier was we're also learning to value our emotions and use them because they're a key component of our intuition. Our emotions to
Yes.
me are linked to helping you perceive that intuitive information, which again in my concept of it, it's how spirit helps you in the day-to-day world intuitively. Um, whereas when
Yeah,
you
it's a great
meditate,
point.
when you meditate or you go to that higher consciousness, that's when you elevate into that God consciousness, or there are many ways to say it, but it's a higher
Mhm.
collective, which I'll wrap that back around to plants, much like you were saying, the vibrancy. That's not what I
Yeah.
wanted to,
No,
but
that's a good one.
it is a good one. But
Mhm.
the vibration, plants communicate through vibration. I don't think it's limited to that. That's just what science has perceived.
Right.
Um, However, that's a very important point that we too, through that frequency, through that vibration, that
Hmm.
resonance factor, um, it's happening. And that's
Yes.
where, to me, in a world where things are going into new changing territories, we want to hold on to being a positive, benevolent element in the environment, and bringing harmony into action instead of creating more fear or tension.
Yeah, it's high vibration versus low vibration, intentional activities in our lives. And then also like the frequency of nature versus the frequency of certain people.
Sorry,
So
not sorry, but spirit wanted me to bring that healing of Reiki into the spirit. I mean, we're doing spirit sessions, so I'm not holding back spirit.
no, please. Yeah,
So
so if
take what you will, public. You don't have to
yes,
receive this, but if you wish, it's love, supportive, high vibration to release toxins.
yes, yes, it is. It's, also, the root of your body is your bladder. That's the root of your body. That is earth. So it is connecting you deeper down into that place of stability than if you are always like reaching up to the sky, right? Like think of a tree. A tree, you see the leaves and the flowers. Well, you will soon, very soon, if you're on the eastern seaboard, but that's the it's our body upside down. It's the legs. But the roots that go into the ground, that's the actual like head. That is the top of the body. It's circulation system. It's the heart. And so let that be a frame of reference too. Um, all the communication is at your feet when you're outside earthing. It's all under you. And if you consciously enter those vibrational sequences, you can feel the health of the area and you can feel how you're part of the programming, how you're not separate from it at all. There are things though that we are developing that keep us from it. But I think we're going to become more biophilic, especially since we're seeing some of the fastest growing economies in the world become more biophilic. Singapore, especially, has been a great example. One of the fastest growing economies, fastest growing cities, but they have 70% of all of their civilians, it might be 75 at this point, are within 400 feet or 400 yards of nature, natural space. So solutions for our problems are completely rooted in making intentional choices with nature, because that is the core and the source for so much of our deprivation and our reasoning for not being able to just tap in.
Interestingly, in my meditations, like I form myself into a tree, I connect to the crystalline grid and the celestial grid. A lot of times I do invert my tree, and my roots are going to this celestial grid, and my branches are going down to the crystalline grid. And then, interestingly, before I knew that in Bellevue we have underground caves that people used to visit in the spiritual renaissance of, I believe, what, the 19 teens to 20s, I believe. Anyway, details. But I go into that crystalline pool to rehydrate. I tuned into it before I knew consciously it was there. And then I also know I physically am located where I am living as a healer of the earth and its inhabitants, where we were between the northernmost point in the Civil War, where we were holding off against the North, and this where I live, there was a hospital across the street. So this was like a convalescing encampment zone. So it going back to what we were talking about, how energy kind of has these loops or patterns. Um, we've had a lot of friction and tension in Richmond, Virginia, particularly, and the spirits of this want to have peace. The earth wants to have peace. The cosmos wants to have peace. So it's working to help us release this tension so that we can move forward, because this is very important. We had previously the same astrological configurations as the American Revolution, but now we're moving into a point where, since astrological history has been recorded, we haven't seen this configuration. So this is a chance to do it a different way. And with Neptune shifting, it is that spiritual renaissance that I was feeling, where we're rethinking our spirituality, our connection to all of this, our intuitions, how we want to work, what we want to work for. Anyway, that's
No,
deep.
yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
I love that. I mean, how else can we learn if we're not recording and seeing patterns? It's an opportunity. And we do have a lot of conscious choice in that. I think some of us think we don't, that we just end up doing things because we have to. But the truth is, you always do things because you want to. Um, and
Well,
sometimes that reason's compelling enough to change things for yourself.
I personally feel very impassioned by healing the earth itself and the land, and easing that human conflict that it's like residually absorbed. So that's where I'm not turning a blind eye to the past. I'm putting love into that to change going forward, heal the past, heal the present, heal the future.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's my like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But that's what
Absolutely.
we're here for. Every one of us, damn it. Sorry, cursing. But yeah, we're all here to help that movement of evolution. Oh, I wanted
Yeah,
to ask you something.
sure.
Two things. One, I had heard once that if, like, say there's poison ivy growing somewhere, the opposite plant in nature that will help heal the poison usually grows nearby. Is that true?
Probably. It's not always because of energy, though. It's because of the fact that it's so common. There's always an antidote nearby.
That's interesting. I like that so much. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
But do you know
Um,
the story about the American ginseng and how it was discovered
no,
or brought into Western? Yeah, it's an interesting one. It was a Jesuit missionary who had a lot of experience in China, and he knew of the Chinese ginseng, which is a very similar plant, but he didn't know there was an American or a version over in this area, this land story. And he went out in nature. This would be near Canada, and he asked a local tribesmen or a group of men who were within a local tribe um, if he brought out the Chinese ginseng from his pocket or packet and he showed them the plant. They smelled it, examined it. They walked a few feet away. And at this point, he had already been exploring the area and was unsuccessful finding it himself. But they walked a few feet away and brought back the American ginseng plant.
that's amazing.
And there are stories. Phyllis Light, she's a Southern folk herbalist. She said she would go out into nature as a child and she was always unsuccessful to identify it. The way her family had taught her, they didn't point it out to her. They just kind of gave her the characteristics and allowed her to go and figure it out herself, which is very important for learning botany because it has to be based on critical thinking, not someone showing you. And she said finally, as a child, she closed her eyes and saw the outline of the ginseng plant in a color. And when she opened it, she went straight to it.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
certain plants have um they have certain auras and certain ways about them, even more so than, and I think it's just very profound to learn those medicines, even more so than the ones that are just so common. But in regards to poison ivy is everywhere, and people walk on it and go right by it and talk to it and physically pass right by it and touch it, and they don't even know. Most people
Yeah.
they don't even know it because people aren't learning botany the right way. They're learning it as one way instead of a lot of shared characteristics of what's possible in a plant and just, permission to look at things a little more closely.
You know, it's funny. I drew a card before I connected online with you, and look, it's ivy. Not poison
Oh,
ivy, but it's just funny. Anyway,
it's English ivy.
which people don't like ivy, and like they think it's a nuisance, but it's a great magical plant.
It's medicinal too. I
So
don't know how to properly process it as in a folk style, but Gaia Herbs has English ivy in one of their cough and immune system syrups. So they grow it intentionally for herbal supplement.
I know that it's good to have in your bedroom. It's a good while you're sleeping. It helps oxygenate your bedroom. So it's one of
Yeah,
the bedroom plants.
yeah. It is such an invasive though. It's such an unfortunate plant that creates this evergreen mat that never dies back. So native native plants don't really have a chance to even try to pop up in between. So we have to try to control it because it can and does take over spaces where plants that are indigenous or of the terroir of the territory need to have a chance to be able to grow and to populate.
Which I'll go rip it out and then I'll dry it and see what we can do with it. How
Just be
about
careful when you rip it out. Wear gloves because it can leave a bad rash, a caustic rash.
not poison ivy? It's just English ivy.
It does too. English
Oh,
ivy
really?
yeah, it
Huh.
can leave a worse rash than poison ivy. Yeah,
Okay.
blackberry thorns can leave a worse rash. Lots of different plants can leave a lots and lots of rashes. And poison ivy has gotten all this hype, and it's interesting that poison ivy homeopathy can be used for the actual like rash, you know? Like it's
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, within itself and its own energy has the remedy too. So um, leaves of three, it could be a strawberry, it could be a pea. We have to look for other characteristics. Um, and it's such an interesting plant that does teach boundaries and um, it invokes fear. And it's interesting that it's like this reason why people don't connect or go off the trail, even though that's where all the adventures happen.
Oh, I'm always going off trail.
Yeah.
Surprise,
Exploration
surprise.
is more important than rigidity and when you go into nature. Always. That's for your brain. More importantly, than your brain health. It gives the chance for the brain to access other parts of the brain that it doesn't normally, and it gives a rest to the frontal lobe. It gives a rest to the areas where you're constantly making decisions. It allows you to enter a flow state and become more attuned and keen observer of what's happening in front of you. So presence, be present.
I love it.
Oh,
Um,
what a fun conversation. Well, we have gone our time. I think I had my AI going for Zoom, so there will be a checklist or something that does come together for that. But what a wonderful opportunity it is to connect with you, Charlene. And for those who are tuning in every week, thank you. We are grateful. I'm definitely I love that we opened up the conversation today with lavender, and then we both just had our whole eye mask kit right here next to our stations. I promise that was not planned. This is what we do. So get one for yourself. It truly is an invitation every week to go deeper in your self-care journey and to contemplate what is possible. And I love the attunement to the planetary alignment, Charlene. Thank you for adding that this week.
we should also do a little blurb. We're planning an event together and with some other practitioners April 5th. Yeah. So
Yes.
stay tuned for more details about that. But it'll be a little bit of this, a little bit of something new. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
you too.
And thank you to our guests.